How's it going, folks? So today I'm going to talk about some gear that I've had for the past couple months, and I'm not much of a gearhead on here. Most of the time I don't like talking specs and stuff like that. I'd rather just shoot it. But this is kind of in a realm that feels more comfortable for me. I do come from shooting film from back in the day, and the transitioning from film to digital was a bit awkward for me. And I guess to start, like, if I could afford it, I would shoot film all day. I still think it's the best quality you can shoot, but due to high prices, lately I've seen in the photography realm how people have been going to Digicams, and you know that's sort of like a trend, I guess. And but for me, the more I looked around, I saw how some of the cameras that people were bringing up were either cameras I sold back in the day, or I might have started on that camera. Some of my first digital cameras, so it's really interesting to see that becoming more popular now. And I have had experience with some early Canon DSLRs and some CCD cameras, but I wanted to go back further into the point and shoot era, like the early 2000s, because I remember my grandparents spending like tons of money on these little point and shoots that, when I think about it at the time, in retrospect, they didn't seem like they were like good quality. But I saw a few videos and a few influencers on YouTube talking about digital cameras, and there was one in particular that I had found on eBay, and that is the Kodak, the DC4800. And this camera was sort of, I saw it in a few photos that it's a 1 month, two cameras. She does like a ton of digital cameras and reviews them, and she does her thing. And there's a bit of a community, like a Discord. I would join that. Lots of cool people, just talking about all these old digital cameras. But this is one that she had a vlog on, and I liked the way the colors were rendered, because it reminded me of like old slide film, or like a Kodachrome type look. And so I looked online, it was like maybe 10-15 bucks, and it took me another like $5 to get it set up with everything. And she hadn't done a review on it or talked about it, and I thought I should talk about it because I've been getting hit up a lot on my Instagram due to this camera, and I'll take it through the city. So it's got a lot of, at least for me in this little tiny portion of that community, a lot of people have been really excited to see some of the stuff that I've bought, and they've also bought it themselves, and they're really appreciative. So I said at some point I would make this video. So it does have these old rechargeable lithium-ion batteries. Had to buy an extra one of these because it didn't come with the charger. That was the $5 I had to spend. But yeah, it's like very tactile, as you can see. For me, I really like it. I used to do a lot of like photojournalism. That's what I went to school for. And this is something that reminded me of like almost like a Contax, like a point and shoot camera from back in the day. And I remember I had an old Pentax that had the similar feel, and we'd take it on vacations and stuff, and I would, point and shoot, just, it was like very early stages, but this has that feel to it. It's got like a interesting grip to it. It shoots 2.8 to f8. And in my experience, it's really slow, but I don't really care about that, because back in the day, I would shoot film, and since the buffer is so long on this, it's more of a challenge, because it brings me back to the days of shooting film, to where if I have to shoot a photo, I have to be just a little bit more thoughtful. And for me, I don't this day and age, you know, I've had all the nicest cameras, and I still do, but I think for me in my journey through photography, when I have all the bells and whistles, sometimes it poses less of a challenge, and it's less fun for me because, I mean, we could argue about specs all day where it's, you know, this camera shoots 11 frames per second, this one shoots 8 frames per second, this one has IBIS, this one doesn't. Like, you know, at the end of the day, it's just like, it's like manual transmission. Like, how you use your or how you drive your car is going to reflect. You know, you don't want to burn your clutch out. That's how I feel about cameras. So, like, the more you shoot on it, the more you can deal with stuff like that. Like, I hear about the Sigma DP2s sound really finicky, but for some reason that is appealing to me. But I mean, I get it. There are some people that just want to like shoot, you know, not have to think about it. You know, who's got the better autofocus? I don't really care about stuff like that because I know that I can get. I know. I mean, I've shot it long enough to know that I can get a good photo. So that's just my little rant on like modern day like cameras and stuff like that. But when it comes to something like this, it is a little bit slower. The zoom is all right. I probably set it more, so since this is a 28 to 84, I probably sit more around the 35, like 50 range. And it's got this little diopter that it doesn't really do much. I mean, you can kind of center stuff up, but for the most part, I just kind of hold it like this, almost like a lomography thing where I just kind of shoot from the hip. But most of the time, it's like I can try to frame stuff as best as I can, just, you know, run and gun. And I've taken a bunch of trips to the city. I mean, I live in South Minneapolis, so I'll take the bus through. And this is something that, for me, like, I mean, I worry about, you know, if someone is gonna like steal it from me or if I break it or anything like that. Like a really nice camera, I just prefer not to bring like a big bulky camera. But like something like this that cost me like $10, that's kind of why this is more practical for me to shoot. And plus, it's just more fun. I have it hanging around my neck. Someone could, you know, take it from me. I don't really care. But I mean, not that that's like the overarching thing that I'm like worried about. But something that's like tactile and it makes me more thoughtful, I think, is where I get the most fun out of shooting stuff in the streets. And I do like my adventure stuff. But I do live in the city though. So if I want to do any sort of like personal stuff about just like getting out in the city, this is something that I think, even with the like 3.1 megapixels, I think it does enough. I mean, I'll put my Instagram on the bottom. You could take a look, or I'll share some photos that I've taken. But these aren't like, I'm not trying to sell like a billboard or anything like that. I think it's just documenting my daily life. And that's why I think this is kind of more set for that. It's like the daily photographer, that someone that wants to create. I do have my other cameras for photography jobs that I do, and that's, you know, that has its place as well. So, but yeah, I think something that I like, this little focus button or zoom button on the back. It feels nice. I mean, when you look at the screen, it's really, I mean, it's like very, like tactile is probably the best thing I could think of. I do shoot it like non-saturated. You know, if you do want to pick this up, it's just something that, you know, mess around with like the settings. Because the biggest thing that kind of sold me on this, when I looked at it and I saw the pictures on her vlog, the biggest thing was after I had looked at, when I did look at the specs, actually, being a hypocrite, I did like how it shot TIFFs. So that was something where I'm like, oh, cool, like maybe I can shoot TIFFs and then, or just like export it as a JPEG, or shoot JPEG. So I kind of do a little bit of both, just depending on like what lighting I'm in. If it's a little more towards the evening, I'll shoot more TIFFs, because if I have to bring up like anything, you know, in the shadows, you know, there's a TIFF file for me to do that. And it does shoot the old like compact cards. I got like a 2 GB in there. It shoots like 100, maybe like a couple hundred. I can't remember. I haven't shot this enough to go through like a full card yet, but it is nice to have. And that going forward, this is something that I'm actually surprised how much I like fell in love with this camera. I have stopped shooting it a little bit more the past couple weeks, only because it's snowy here in Minnesota. I did take it up to an ice climbing event and shot there, and you know, that was all out of camera there, and they came out pretty good. The only thing it did is you know, it's not like weatherproof, so it didn't really hold up too well. The battery died pretty fast, but I think once like spring and summer come, this will be something to be, you know, bring to like events, outdoor events and stuff like that. I want to go to some powwows and just see, you know, how this thing does. I really want to shoot like some portraiture type stuff and just see what I can get out of it. I think those things pose more of a challenge for me, and just like skin tones and all that stuff. So, but yeah, I thought I would just like kind of touch on just like how much I really like this camera. Like I said, a lot of people have hit me up and they've purchased it. So, and it's sort of become like a little community in myself that people reach out and say, hey, I saw that you shot on this camera, and so I thought I'd give, you know, back to that community. And what I'll do now is maybe I'll just edit one photo, and you guys can kind of see where my settings are if I do shoot TIFFs and stuff like that. Because the biggest thing is like, when for me exposing with the CCD, it is really harsh like on the highlights, and that's the one thing I love about shooting film is like the highlight retention is like, you know, you could just expose for the shadows and like it looks really nice. With these, it's like you kind of have like the grain on it is really nice, so when you do shoot a little dark and bring it up, it does fine. So like so shooting stuff with the CCD sensor is really nice. The colors come out pretty rich. Again, like I said, it really meshes really well with the grain. The black and whites have come out pretty sweet, you know. I enjoy shooting the black and whites on these. So but yeah, I'll just go into highlighting how I do like quick edits on this. And some I do with the one camera or 1 month 2 camera. She got like a profile. Sometimes I use that, and yeah, we'll cut to that. All right, so I pulled up Lightroom here, and this is when I one of the photos I showed earlier, and I think this one I did use. Yeah, this one's so this one, if you go on 1 month 2 cameras, she's got these profiles, and this one didn't use it, but you can tell how much brighter it is. It was a little too much. Oh, I'm gonna do that. It was a little too harsh on this one, but I went in, kind of adjusted the temperature. This is the TIFF. You can see down here. You know, this is like middle of the day, so usually these are kind of like adjustments I do. I pull the highlights down, kind of do like a little dynamic, you know, adjustments here. Pull the clarity down just a little bit. It kind of gives it more of like a kind of halo effects and stuff. Pulled the saturation up a little bit. But this is the point where I really feel like it might look minor, but it just kind of gives, I pull this down just a hair because it kind of gives the picture just a little bit more of a pastel look to it. And then I kind of look at like sometimes I'll take this tool and kind of look at ranges that might need a little bit more detail. So like here and these like shadows and stuff like that, I kind of like to get ahead of that a little bit more and then just kind of bump that up, just so it's not like totally just, bring too much out of the shadows, because I don't want to touch that too much, even though I've made adjustments up here. So that's kind of stuff I look at, and then I'll kind of push out colors here and there. You know, I don't deviate too far off. These blues were a little bit too bright. I mean, I kind of like them now, but I kind of wanted to see how putting it down to at least 20, it kind of gives it, just like brings a little bit more color back into that. I pull the sharpening all the way down. I don't want to add any more sharpening on these. They feel pretty delicate. No profiles enabled. I do pop a little bit of grain in there. I mean, I don't really have to, but I think what it does is it kind of just brings out a little bit more, or it kind of breaks everything apart just a little bit more. I don't like crank it up to this, because that just looks really bad. But I kind of just, you know, maybe 5. I think 5 is always like enough. And if you pixel peepers out there, you can you can look at that and all day. It's kind of not my thing. You know, this next one I really liked, and this one I did use her. So I did use her profile on this. So the 1 month 2 cameras profile. You know, brought the exposure down just a hair. You know, I like my things a little bit more saturated. Just brought down highlights on this one because it looked like it ripped apart the down here. It was a little too hot for me. And that's like the only adjustment I did on that. I mean, her profile is really good. This one is, so I think yeah, it looks like it's a little hot. I don't know if you can tell on my screen. So this is kind of where I do that little bit of bringing down the highlights, especially with the CCD. I notice like when it gets hot, it's like really hot. And just kind of lay these little points out and adjust them. Like you could barely see it. So it's just like little subtle adjustments like that. And she also has a tutorial and stuff like that on how she does it. But this is basically like majority of the photos I shoot. If I have a profile on it, I don't make too many adjustments. It just starts to fall apart. But I think this is fine for me. And then, yeah, no grain on that one. So it's pretty clean overall. So, I mean, from the last one, that's a little bit more stylized. This one's just like using like that profile and just kind of like, you know, making it look, I wouldn't say like less stylized, but it just pops out a little bit more. So like from time to time, I'll use her, just like one of her profiles. Let's see anything else. Oh yeah. So this is one thing in the community group is when you get the cameras, these are kind of pictures that you find. So this person must really be into, I don't know, thrift store photos, but I thought that was kind of funny. That's probably one of my more favorite parts of that, the community, is like seeing what you find like on the cards you buy at like a thrift store and stuff like that. It's pretty funny stuff. But this one looks a little bit darker. I think I made like another adjustment on this one because it looks a little too dark on here. But you know, I gave it a monochrome, brought the contrast up. I mean, I could probably push this a lot. You can see how grainy that gets. It just has like, I mean, I had some of the earlier like Canon DSLRs back in the day, and I used to love shooting black and whites, because when you brought up the ISO, you get stuff in here that I mean, it looks kind of crappy, but it kind of has this like, I don't know, you can barely see it, but it has like some method to its madness, like where things start to fall apart. And I really like, I don't know, that as like aesthetic. So, and just kind of push all these here and there. Like black and whites are like interesting for me. I don't really shoot them too much. They're a little bit like by taste, I guess. But when I do, it is pretty fun to like kind of destroy. I would say like destroy. Yeah, this one has a lot of grain. So, and I only put that much grain in there because, like I said, I like to kind of destroy a lot of these like black and white photos, because for me, most of the time when I'm shooting black and white, it's like I see more either contrast or, you know, maybe it's a photo that didn't come out the way I wanted. So I'm like, oh, I'll throw some black and white on it, see how it goes. And then you can really push the grain in this because, you know, it's not really affecting, you know, like the scene as much. But I wanted to share one last thing. And that is, yeah, I didn't do it in either one of these, but sometimes when you like pixel peep in here, if you go like super far in, you know, you kind of get like these artifacts up here. And, you know, even just bumping that up like a little bit, I could see how much it's like, you know, even 10, that's a lot. But that helps with the noise. A lot of these old cameras get a lot of noise in them. So that's just some subtle actions I do. And you can pull these down and, you know, just kind of really dial in where you need it to. But I mean, there's so much brightness to it. Like, it's so far away. That's just something that you can do. Like I said, if you want to pixel peep, sometimes I put it on, sometimes I don't. Mostly in evening shots, I might bump it up to like 5. So that's just kind of my process through it. So thought I'd share that. And yeah, if you have any more questions, put it down in the comments. And if you want me to do more videos on this, yeah, just feel free to ask me any questions. So cool. So I'm glad you guys have checked out this channel. I'm not sure how much I'll do reviews. You know, this channel is more meant for just like a creative outlet. So, but I've been inspired by this, you know, camera enough to do a video on it. But I do have some reflection videos, travel videos, stuff like that. So, I don't know how much time I'll spend on this channel, but you know, if it builds a community, then I'm all for it. So, you know, like, subscribe, you know, let me know what you think in the comments, and yeah, enjoy shooting.